what I'm going to say, there's absolutely nothing new from what they've actually shared. The presentation is struggling a little bit. It's exactly one slide, because what I wanted to do is to just share my journey. One of those things I was reflecting on, because I was called by the organizers, to come and share with you. And I only have got 30 minutes, but I want to do it in much shorter time than that, because I also recognize that I'm standing between you and lunch. So please forgive me for that. I will try. It's quarter to right now. So maybe by 2 o'clock, which is 15 minutes, I should finish. I wanted to talk about why you need to master your craft. So if you're taking notes, I just want you to sort of, take that. I want to talk about why you should identify and weigh the problem. Think big, but begin small. Stay willing to pivot. Somebody was asking, what about if there are all these problems? Because business is hard. We call that strategic flexibility, that willingness to shift while you are focused on the big goal. And then, of course, persistence builds, the base. Exactly like you, 1993, that was my registration at the University of Zimbabwe. I was R93, excited. I know some of you were not even born. Elder Rose, when did you register? Which year?
I graduated
85. That means she probably entered in 83 maybe. In 83 I was in grade 3 and she was starting university. In 93 I know maybe my sister Praise was not even born, okay? I registered in the electrical engineering department at the University of Zimbabwe, excited, looking forward to taking on the world. And then in my second year, I got a scholarship to go to the UK, to the London School of Economics. I immediately abandoned everything I was doing, for that scholarship, of course, with excitement. And, because I was just pursuing another degree, I'd been told if you do this, you make so much money and things like that. So I took that, program at the London School of Economics. But just like somebody else, I don't know how many have graduated here. Are you all still in university? I'm sure there are others that have graduated, others are in university. When I left my university, London School of Economics, I don't know who knows the LSE here, but it's like one of the top universities in the world, okay? Really, really to be envied. In fact, number 1 in economics, number 1 in social sciences in the world. And we are very proud of that. But I came out, I remember, very dejected. Actually depressed, because I was thinking to myself, what did I do here? What was I studying here? I don't seem to know anything. That's exactly how I felt. I had studied actuarial science. So I felt like I'm not even, I didn't even learn maths, like pure maths. I didn't even learn statistics. I didn't even learn finance. I'm just sort of, floating somewhere. So in a few minutes, I want to say to somebody, I don't know what your degree program is, but there are doubts sometimes, in your degree program. You think, was this the right course? Am I doing the right thing here? Perhaps maybe those that are doing engineering, maybe they're doing the right thing. I actually left engineering for something else. Maybe you think, maybe if I was doing law, maybe because you applied for law and you didn't get it. I don't think it matters at all, with experience. I left university. I then, joined, 2 institutions in Zimbabwe, Pricewaterhouse. I joined another, local financial institution, Intermarket. Then I joined a global investment bank focusing on energy and infrastructure. New York Bank with, Africa coverage out of Johannesburg. So within a year and a half, I'd already migrated to to South Africa, working all over Africa. But where I'm talking about master your craft, I know Elder Rose was talking about, our elder was talking about it. It took me 10 years of learning energy and infrastructure at the top level, global, finance, actually learning, right from the best, before I even then thought about starting my own business. So it was exactly 10 years. So in one sentence, I would like to say to somebody, if you really want to do business at the very top, you need to master your craft. When you have got a university degree, the way I see it myself, when you are at university, all you are doing really is you are amassing a set of tools that you are going to use, whether it is finance, whether it is law, whether it is medicine, whether it is engineering, it's communication, whether it's English literature. It doesn't quite matter what the degree is. All the degree is doing is to give you tools that you are going to use to solve important problems in life. So I'm now running a company where if you look at it, you'd think it's predominantly engineering. You'd think it's predominantly finance. You'd think it's predominantly legal. But business by its very nature, it's multidisciplinary. We depend on teams. It's okay to be very good by yourself. One of those lessons you must take is that if you want to go far, I'm sure you've heard of this adage in business. If you want to go fast, you do it alone. But if you want to go far in business, you have got to go together as a team. So if I had time, I would have given you my examples of trying to do it on my own. But I've seen that genuine success comes from working as a team. And a team includes multidisciplinary, teams, people coming from different backgrounds. So number one, I spent a lot of time, at the very top of the game, learning about, this business in a company, learning about management, learning actual skills, modeling, technical skills, communication, legal, finance, writing proposals. Those are things that you need to have learned somewhere. I know, when we're sharing like this, we're only sharing our parts. And parts differ. So what I'm only telling you is my path. I know somebody may just leave university and go and start straight a very successful business. Nothing says you can't do that. But consistently, you will see that a lot of people that you think have just left university or dropped out of university, like Bill Gates, don't let that lie to you. They probably had about 15 years. If you read about their profiles, Mark Zuckerberg, they were trained in their families, in technology and other things at a very high level. So when you see them dropping out of Harvard, in their first year, in their second year, and you think you can just drop out, it doesn't quite work like that. Master your craft. That is number one. The reason why I sometimes, even resist coming to meetings like this is because I've now understood why I resist, and I've understood now why I also want to come. I've seen that I only need to share my journey. And I've seen that it's really about just one person out of this entire room, perhaps maybe who will get something out of it. So, remember even the Lord, the other time he said to his disciples, I'm going to take a detour. And he went through Samaria. And he met one lady. And he spoke to just that lady. The other time, they actually crossed a whole lake just to go and meet one person. So, when you want to do business at the very top, where some of us are doing it, you need to identify away the problem. If you're taking notes, I want you to write, hard things are hard. Don't make the mistake of thinking the way to succeed in business is about creating value. everybody tells you that. It's about value. It's about exchanging value. You only begin to make money when you create value for a large number of people and they are willing to pay for it. You only begin to make real money in business when you are solving an important problem for a large number of people. So you need to be that person who easily gravitates towards solving problems. Now, when we see the way you solve problems in your classes, there are people right now, if you are given a problem, an accounting problem, an essay, the first thing you do is you just sort of, go into your large language model and then you put few commands and your essay is done. Now, that's not solving problems. Somebody asked if things are hard. It's because business is really hard. You will never succeed in business if you are the sort of person who goes around just asking people, oh, so what do I do here? So what do I do here? Because these are hard problems. What are the problems? What are the hard problems that we are facing in Africa? Housing. How many people in Africa, right now, don't have houses? Infrastructure. You can look at the quality of our roads. Healthcare. How many kids are born and don't even receive good quality healthcare? Education. Financial access. I chose a problem which is power, electricity. As we sit right now in Africa with a population of about 1.4 billion, we've got almost 600 million Africans who have never seen electricity in their homes. We're talking about since the advent of Adam and Eve on the continent, they've never seen electricity in their homes. So there are so many problems that we need to solve on this continent. And let me tell you, these are not easy problems. When the previous generation, like when Strive Masiwa, when they were solving telecoms, remember what Strive was saying? We in fact had more than 1 billion Africans that had never heard a telephone ring even once. Right now, every one of you is sitting, I am very sure, with a mobile phone in their pocket. Could anybody show me that doesn't have a mobile phone? In fact, the answer is no. It took some people, and they were actually your age, to identify that problem and say, we're going to solve this. This is also what I did. Number one, there is a worthy problem that you must identify. Now, I don't mean this is for everybody because I understand it's hard. You may simply want to do business because you want to sell bananas for a family, because you want to start a little bakery just to look after yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not qualified to talk about that. I'm talking about the global changes that I heard about right now when I was here. Now, those ones have to identify worthy problems, hard problems. And that is what you need to identify. That's where real and lasting success comes from. How do you tackle those problems? Number one, I said, if you want to go fast, you do it alone. But if you want to go far, we must go together as teams. That is number one. Number two, another lesson you want to take from that is, yes, you must think big. Vision is everything. Let me give my example. In 2008, after doing 10 years of actually working in industry, going towards 2009, I done 10 years. I was a master at what I was doing. I then decided I now want to go and solve these power problems. And the best way to solve problems is actually the creation of companies. There is an advantage of creating a company rather than just doing things from your briefcase or rather than just doing things from your pocket. So there's a huge advantage, and we can always go into that. I'll start my own company. The problem I want to solve is the provision of electricity on the African continent. I was turning 35. And then I said to myself, I want to go and create what we call operating power companies, which means I want to build power stations. We are allowed in this country, even by legislation, to build your own power station, to own your power station, to sell electricity to ZESA, to sell electricity to your customer that you choose. You are actually allowed to compete with ZESA. You are actually allowed to be bigger than ZESA in this country. And in fact, in many, many countries on the African continent, you are allowed to do that. That's how you solve these problems. So 2008, I said to myself, I want to do that. And because I'm 35, if I look after myself well, if God looks after me, I've got another 35 years, isn't it, in which I'm strong and healthy. I can work hard, I can do this. So I'd identified the worthy problem. So the vision was very clear. So now I can tell you what the vision is: powering Africa in a sustainable manner. This is not a vision that I can sort of fulfill in one lifetime. So it's a long-term vision. Remember Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2, the Bible talks about Jesus saying, looking unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him, he endured the cross, despising the shame that was associated with. The point is that he had a big vision. How did he go about fulfilling that vision? The Lord was very simple. He just identified 12 guys and said, let's start. Look at what we are now as the entire church of the Lord Jesus 2,000 years later. Big vision, but he started somewhere. So it's the same. I then, long story short, started the company. Again, stay pivoting. We can always talk about that because I had one thesis about starting in the transmission sort of segment, but also then changed to go into generation. What has happened, in conclusion, because I promised only 15 minutes. 2014, we then said, yes, now this is an opportunity to start, a solar farm. You go through a lot of pain. You suffer. But what keeps you going is not the suffering, it is the vision. So what I want to say to somebody is, but what is your vision? There's a scripture in the Bible that talks about write the vision down. Make it plain so that those that see it may take up that vision and also run with it. So the vision was very clear. We want to power Africa. We want to see every African having electricity in their homes. 2014, 15, 16, decided we're building a solar farm. The process of even applying for land, she talked about 1 year. It took us almost 2 years. Just applying for land to the government and say, we are asking for land because this is what we want to do. The process of applying for licenses, for permits, it will test you in every way you can think of. What keeps you going is the vision. The Bible talks about Jesus saying he despised the shame that was associated with the cross. He kept on going, the Bible says, for the joy that was set before him. It's the same thing. 2019, exactly 10 years after I left the company that I worked for, we then, thank God, we then built our first solar farm in Nyabira. Some of you have seen it, on your way towards Chinoi. It was only 2 megawatts. But that was also even the largest solar farm in the country and also the first grid-connected solar farm. How did we finance it? It was, maybe about $6 million. That is little in infrastructure. We tried everything to raise money. Elder Rose, we went to Old Mutual asking for money. Back then, we were asking from Old Mutual, we were asking for $1.5 million. We even said we are mortgaging our houses. My parents are pastors, like my sister prays here. My parents were pastors in church. I'm also a sadop, We tried to mortgage our family homes. We tried to mortgage this land. We tried everything. Everything failed. All the investors we targeted, they all would not give us any cent. Thank God, there is also the favor of God that is associated with you all here. So I like what these speakers are saying whenever they keep telling you business is spiritual. There just isn't enough time, Dr. Manders, to talk about how spiritual it is. But business, at the end of the day, is also deeply spiritual. We raised the money, long story short, did our 2 megawatts, but we now needed to expand. What I want to say to somebody, go back again to think big, begin small, begin small. You cannot scale a business from zero. You cannot grow, you cannot multiply 0 and get something. So the first step is what you start yourself. How do you finance it? What do you do? I can tell you that is the most difficult thing that you ever do in your life. Somebody gave a picture of a ladder that is going up. You don't want to make the first bar unnecessarily too high. Imagine you are doing high jump, in primary school. How many have done high jump? We all used to do that as a class. They never used to start by setting the bar at 2 meters. In fact, they used to set it like at 5 centimeters. And at that 5 centimeters, everybody would cross. Even girls, even boys. And then they will sort of raise it up gradually, until others fall out and you then remain with 1 or 2 who are really, really good. It is the same thing in business. Big vision, but you have got to start really small. It is actually so difficult to think about borrowing money when you are starting. I don't really want to be bogged down into the methods of financing. I told you what some of us were doing. Trying to mortgage the parents' houses, trying to raise money, and we got nothing. 2021, 2022, 2023, because we now have got a solar farm that is running, it's now a power generation company. We then went out to the market, trying to raise $40 million to expand. Now, these are US dollars. Now we want to expand. Now, listen, you cannot expand when there is nothing. You cannot expand when you do not even have an experience of being a power generation company. We went back to the same old mutual that would not give us $1.5 million. They gave us 22 million US dollars. We went back to NASA that would not give us even a cent because she mentioned NASA. They gave us 8 million US dollars. We went back to other investors and they gave us more. It's easy now to raise money because I am now scaling. Came other opportunities. We then raised $30 million to build a hydroelectric power plant in Masvingo at Tugumukosi. I don't know how many know Tugumukosi. We've got a big dam there. We are building a hydroelectric power plant. We've raised $50 million to build 2 more solar power plants to supply one of the big cement producers in the country. We've raised $100 million to build another solar power plant in construction. Now, numbers are easy. And in fact, it's easy to say, because I know when you talk numbers, you get people's attention. It is really about the process. What is the problem that you are solving? Whose is it for? Think about the big problem that affects many people. And then begin small. But you can never solve those problems until you also have enough skills and you work as a team to do that. As you can see, I can keep on going. But thank you so much for the opportunity. I just needed to share. I hope it helps somebody.
You were mostly saying you should have your vision. I think maybe for most of us, our paths are very different because out of university, either we're just doing our small businesses, or we are some of other people have already got going work. How then do you? For myself, we have a small family company. So basically, what we do, we just do almost anything and everything. My parents are in church, so that spirit of matarenda, like we hunt for opportunities. So if you get an opportunity to do this today, next day you might find us doing construction, next day you might find us doing a lot of that stuff. So from me personally, from the perspective of someone who did engineering, you also have ideas or stuff that you want to pursue. How then do you maybe structure or mold your vision inside that particular company, or maybe try to be maybe the direction to, like, basically pointing the company in the right direction? Because my thinking is when we are doing a lot of things,
I think the question is clear.
It's very difficult to go.
I think the question is clear. Yeah. I know we're about to go to lunch. Is there another question so that we just...
Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation that you have shared. I'm really inspired. My question is simple. Towards an unattainable goal amongst many, when you share with a friend or someone, the goal to them seems to be unattainable. How did you manage to, where did you get the motivation to actually continue to pursue when you speak of an idea amongst potential investors and they don't really believe in it, but you yourself continue to believe? What was the motivation behind the motivation to continue? Thank you.
Yeah. While the other questions are coming, no, I like that question, and I also like the question. It's the vision. It's the vision that keeps you going. Without a vision, there's a Bible passage that says, without a vision, people perish. People cast restraint. That is what the other version says. It means you can go anywhere. It is hard to solve hard problems. Okay? So you really need to be vision driven. It's like even, our father, when he started this church, it's hard to start a church like this. It's because he had actually seen it. Remember when he said the other time, this church is Kufura Roman Catholic. He had seen it. I don't know how many read the history book of Zayoja, but you see the amount of problems he went through. In fact, people trying to kill him. It's hard when you've got a big vision. There is so much opposition. What keeps you going is the vision. My brother, it's the same thing. Yes, the family may be doing all sorts of things, but then you need to then say to yourself, what problem gravitates to you is yourself? What problem do you want to solve? Is it AI infrastructure? Is it, financial services? Is it housing? Is it power? Is it healthcare? What problem are you trying to solve? I think everybody has a vision that is sitting inside them. Even what I'm doing myself, I know I had glimpses of these things even when I was young. These are not things that just sort of happen. If I was to sit with somebody, you know what you are driven towards. And I mentioned that corporations are the best way to arrange that. But have your vision. Write it down. And then, of course, those steps that we mentioned. Because when I left my employer myself, by the way, I had a good job. Let me tell you, I was paid well. Not $10,000 a month, not $20,000. I was paid well. I'm talking about US. Well. When I left my job, My employers were surprised and said, why are you leaving? What do you not have? Believe me, you will suffer. You will suffer because somebody was talking about borrowing. Nobody lends you money when you're starting a business. Why would they lend you money? You never borrow capital. You develop capital. So, I was 35, I told you, and I said to myself, I am going for the next 35 years to create this business. So help me God. You know what I told myself? There is no coming back. The only way, in fact, at the end of 35 years, two things would have happened. This business would have succeeded, or I would have died, or whatever it is. But I would die trying. That was the vision. I had no intention whatsoever to go back to work. You don't know me. I can go back to work today. I would even be demanding a salary of $50,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a month. And I can tell you I will get it today. I can tell you that for a fact with the skills that I have. That's not the point. That's not the point. The point is to solve this problem that I'm confronted with. So it's really about the vision and then, of course, the steps behind that. Just for, maybe another question or two, if there's any.
All right. I was wanting to know about, we're talking about venture capital, getting startup capital. How would you go about that?
Absolutely. Again, I know Elder Rose spoke about that, but I can also just reinforce a little bit. I said something. When you really want to scale, you do not scale nothing. I said 0 multiplied by 100 remains what? 0. And I said to you, the hardest thing you're going to do, even though you've got a big vision, is where to start. This church is going to grow bigger than the Catholic. But God says to somebody, go to, where do you start the church? In Bindura. If you read the history book, says, Njimbo yakaita say, praise. Yakazvidzika, you know the words. Yakazvidzika. It's always like that. You never, hakuna mnanombotanga business with $1 million. Those who have started business with money because their parents had money, I can tell you invariably what will happen. Invariably, they will lose that money. I can tell you for a fact. Because you have got to start from the very bottom. In fact, even myself, when I started, because I told you I had money, I had saved a lot of money. You lose all of it. Because I don't know why. You have got to go back and start from first principles. You know, it's also almost lunch, and these are long topics. Each one of them will require its own seminar, right? And this is why there's ACBF. But if there's another question, maybe we can just, quickly.
Thank you, Elder Utedzi. I think my question is directed towards scaling services. I do understand that with services, sometimes there are things that you can't standardize, or there are things that are very dependent on, say, maybe your skill or your particular talent. And that's how you have sort of built the business. Now you want to scale it, and you probably can't multiply yourself for lack of a better description of it. And do you have any examples or maybe tips that you could share about how you can scale a business that is maybe talent-based or creative-based or service-based, that is not a commodity or maybe a very raw kind of
Understood. Scaling is about processes, right? It's about making the business repeatable, not just depending on you. So you see that with scaling, it's exactly that, creating processes. I went through a program for scaling, even for a services business. There are processes that must still be standardized. You don't want to be repeating, processes all the time. One of the first jobs I took when I left university was with, Pricewaterhouse. Even the audit process itself, I don't know who has worked for an audit company, even the audit process itself is standardized. There are methods by which you go through an audit process. It's services, right? But it is standardized. I was in the consulting side. Even the way you write your report, your due diligence, there is a standardized form in which you do a due diligence. Even the way you fundraise, it's not just about your intelligence or how you are motivated that day or what your pastor has said. It's all standardized. So as far as is possible, even in services, if we're talking about scaling, you need to be thinking about how to standardize so that you make the jobs repeatable, not just by you, but by anybody who reads the vision so that they can also run with it. Isn't it time for lunch? Okay, there's another question. I don't mind taking questions, but I'm just worried about people who need to have lunch.
Majita Zikoro. Question yangu yakatibike bichana. Tinobonga nomashe nekutidzidzisa. Mubvunzo wangu wakamira so. Paside nevision. Vision ndinayo kuti ndinozoita chakati pamberi apo. But mamwe mamanzi akamushitaura muchiti ari ma-SDI. Amacho ndikamabata pane mezenzi rinongosumukawo so. Saka ndaida kubvunza kuti zenzi iroro ndoriita sei?
No, thank you. That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let me try to answer that. The way these things work, this is the point. You will never scale, until you learn to start small. The money I'm talking about, you may look at me and you think it's my money. It becomes investors' money that comes to grow that business. They will never give you that money, entrust you with those resources until you also have learned to deal nezenzeroro. My dad, by the time he died, he was a bishop in this church, he was a pastor, etc., etc. We are 8 siblings, and we all grew up almost the same age. And we had one couch, same by Mfundis. And we all used to just play with that couch. And he said to us, no one is going to sit on this couch. And he said, muchazongo gara pa couch papo when you have learned to sit on the couch. Me, I was very clever. I said, teacher, dzidzasei gara pa couch istaka gara pasi. My brother, let me tell you what his answer was. We will see that you know how to sit on a couch with the way you are sitting on the floor. Very simple. I don't know how it happened, but one day all of us, we just sat on the couch. This was after a year or 2 years or 3 years. And guess the way we were sitting? We were all just sitting like this. Where did we learn to sit on the couch? On the floor. Where do you learn to manage hundreds of millions of dollars? When you do not have much. Luke chapter 17. If we were not faithful with the little, who is going to entrust you with much? That's the scripture. Another question. Okay.
Thank you so much. My question is on time management. You see that as you started your business while also working for another company, right? So I wanted to see, let's say probably you're working from 8 a.m. up to around 5 p.m. and from Monday to Saturday. How best can you manage your time so that you can win both sides, like working and also venture into any other business that you want to start?
Yeah, I know there was a similar question on time management, and Elder Ross tried to. I didn't. The idea for sure. But I had the decency to actually resign from my company. And I already said it when they said to me, where are you going? And for a whole year, they even supported me, gave me facilities and supported me, with resources. So no. I wasn't just, sort of doing, I was very committed to my employer. I resigned nicely. They supported me for a year until I then, really had to start on my own. So that doesn't seem to answer your question. And I'm not saying that is the way to do it. Somebody may have to start while they're still working there. I'm only sharing my journey, and humbly I'm saying the way I did it doesn't mean that is the only way to do it, but you can just take some good lessons out of that.